Pack your bags, we're headed on a big old ride, with dreams of sunlit shores and the open skies, from the hills of Cyprus to where the world collides.
Hey there, deep divers, and welcome back. You know how much we all love a good travel adventure, and today we're diving into one that's got a unique twist. We're off to Las Vegas, but not for the usual high roller escapades.
That's right. We're about to unpack a 2004 blog post titled A New Life Planned in Cyprus by a couple named Rob and Mandy. Now, you might be thinking, Cyprus? What does that have to do with Vegas? Well, this trip to Sin City took place right before their big move overseas, and it's more than just a travelogue. It's a window into their mindset as they stand on the precipice of a huge life change. The question we're going to unravel throughout this deep dive is, what kind of travelers are Rob and Mandy? Each stop on their American adventure, starting with Vegas, will offer clues.
Okay, I love where this is going already. So picture this. Rob and Mandy have just endured a 10-hour flight from Gatwick, touching down at McCarran Airport. They're probably exhausted, ready to stretch their legs, when the captain comes on the intercom with a rather interesting announcement. He casually mentions low tire pressure and warns that the ground crew, quote, our American cousins might just overreact. Can you imagine the tension in that cabin?
And overreact they did. The second the plane lands, Rob and Mandy are greeted by a full-blown fire truck escort, lights blazing down the runway. It's a hilarious juxtaposition, especially when they point out the captain's calm demeanor amidst the potential chaos.
It definitely sets the scene for a trip that's anything but ordinary. And speaking of extraordinary, their first stop takes them straight to the heart of Vegas excess, the Luxor Hotel. Now, we've all seen pictures of this place, and Rob and Mandy's description makes it feel like you're stepping right into a movie set. They describe the sheer scale of the Black Pyramid, the imposing presence of the Sphinx out front, and the overwhelming Egyptian theming throughout.
And that's exactly the point of a place like the Luxor, isn't it? It's not just a place to rest your head. It's a carefully crafted experience designed to transport you to another world. This theme park approach to architecture, especially in a place like Vegas, speaks volumes about our desire for fantasy and escape.
And escape they do the very next day, venturing onto the Las Vegas Strip. Now, I've been lucky enough to experience the Strip, and it truly is sensory overload in the best possible way. Rob and Mandy try to capture this whirlwind in their blog post. One minute they're strolling past Excalibur with its medieval facade and jousting knights, and the next they're beneath a replica Eiffel Tower, snapping photos of a faux Arc de Triomphe. It's like they're hopping between postcards, each more outlandish than the last.
And remember how they describe each hotel as its own self-contained universe? That's the genius of the Strip's design. It taps into our desire for constant novelty, for instant gratification.
But even amidst this fast-paced, over-the-top environment, there's one stop that stands out for a very different reason. The Venetian. Now, I know what you're thinking, another over-the-top theme. But this time it seems to resonate with Rob and Mandy in a different way. They describe the indoor canals, complete with singing gondoliers, the painted skies overhead. They even make a point of mentioning sipping iced coffee in this serene setting.
And it's in these quieter moments that we get a glimpse of what truly appeals to them as travelers. If the Strip represents a sensory free-for-all, the Venetian offers a carefully curated experience of romance and tranquility. It begs the question, what were they seeking in that moment? A temporary escape from an already escapist environment. Perhaps a longing for a different pace of life.
Now it's time to see the city from a whole new perspective. Next up, our guest decided to head to the Stratosphere Tower.
Ah, the Stratosphere. You can't go to Vegas without experiencing that view at least once, right?
Right. It's iconic. So picture this. You're standing on top of this tower, looking out over this incredible cityscape, and it just hits you. You're in the middle of the desert.
That's what's so fascinating about Las Vegas, isn't it? This glittering, pulsating city seemingly dropped right into the middle of this vast, arid landscape.
It's like they built a whole world out of the desert floor. And of course, you can't forget those thrill rides perched precariously on top of the stratosphere. Talk about an adrenaline rush.
I can only imagine what it must feel like to be launched off that tower with the desert stretching out beneath you. But it wasn't all high-flying adventures for our guest. They also decided to check out a true American pastime, a baseball game.
As you do when in Vegas, right. Though from the sounds of it, the crowd was more interested in the snacks and the spectacle than the actual game itself. Our guest made a really interesting observation about this.
Yeah, they talk about how it highlighted the social aspect of the whole experience. It wasn't just about watching the game. It was about being part of something, enjoying the company of friends and strangers alike.
Sharing a bucket of popcorn, cheering for the home team, even if you don't know who they are, it's all part of the experience. Speaking of uniquely American experiences, our guest decided to trade the glitz of the Strip for something a little more, shall we say, vintage Vegas.
Fremont Street, the heart of old Vegas.
The OG Vegas before the mega resorts and celebrity chef restaurants. This is where it all began.
Exactly. Our guest described it as a sensory explosion. The flashing neon lights, the street performers, the energy of the crowds. It's a completely different vibe than the Strip.
Almost a bit gritty, right? But in a good way, like you've stepped back in time. And of course, no trip to Fremont Street would be complete without encountering a few, shall we say, interesting characters.
Let's just say Fremont Street definitely lived up to its reputation. It's one of those places where you never know who or what you might see.
And that's part of the appeal. It sounds like our guest was really drawn to the contrasts of Las Vegas.
Absolutely. They seem to embrace every aspect of the city, from the dazzling spectacle to the gritty underbelly.
From the neon canyons of Fremont Street to an actual canyon. That's right. Our intrepid explorer decided to take a little detour to the Grand Canyon.
Talk about a change of pace. One minute you're dodging Elvis impersonators, the next you're soaring over the Mojave Desert.
And not just any desert, right? Like, this is the Mojave Desert. It's like stepping into a classic Western movie. So imagine this. You're in a helicopter, looking down at this vast, ancient landscape.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? All those worries and stresses of everyday life just fade away when you're confronted with the sheer scale and grandeur of nature.
Absolutely. Our guest talked about how the canyon walls were like a painter's palette, all these incredible shades of red, orange, gold. It must have been breathtaking.
They use the word immensity a lot in their description, and it's the perfect word for it, isn't it? The Grand Canyon is just immense.
It makes you realize how small we really are. And get this, they actually landed at a ranch inside the canyon for breakfast.
Now that's what I call an unforgettable breakfast experience.
Right, and it gets even better. They met a cowboy named Hoss.
Hoss. You can't make this stuff up. It's those little serendipitous encounters that make travel so special.
Totally. And speaking of special, their journey back from the Grand Canyon took them over another iconic landmark, the Hoover Dam.
Now, that's a sight to behold. This incredible feat of human engineering standing there in the middle of the desert.
It's a powerful reminder of what we're capable of achieving, isn't it?
Absolutely. But then you have the contrast of the Grand Canyon right there, reminding us that for all our ingenuity, we're still dwarfed by the power of nature.
A humbling thought, for sure. Okay, so we've done the Strip, we've braved the crowds at Fremont Street, we've soared over the Grand Canyon, now it's time to hit the open road. Our guest rented a Chrysler Sebring convertible, because why not?
A classic choice for a desert road trip. And where do you go when you have a sweet ride in the open road beckoning? Red Rock Canyon, of course.
Another great call. This trip just keeps getting better and better. They traded the neon lights for sandstone cliffs, the sounds of slot machines for the whisper of the wind through the Joshua trees.
Sounds idyllic, doesn't it?
It does, but it wasn't all peace and tranquility. Remember that broken lift at the Hoover Dam?
Oh, yeah. Talk about being in the right place at the right time.
Because of that stroke of luck, they got a behind-the-scenes tour of the inside of the dam.
Wow. What are the chances? Those are the kinds of travel stories you just can't plan for.
Exactly. And to top it all off, they ended their trip with a sunset horseback ride through the Mojave Desert.
Can you imagine anything more magical? The setting sun casting long shadows across the sand, the only sounds the gentle clip-clop of hooves, and the wind whistling through the canyons.
It sounds like the perfect ending to an incredible journey. And you know what really struck me about their story is the sheer variety of experiences they packed into one trip. They really embraced everything Las Vegas and its surroundings had to offer.
They did. From the glitz and glamour of the Strip to the raw beauty of the desert, they experienced it all. It's a great reminder that sometimes the most memorable trips are the ones that take us outside of our comfort zones and challenge our perceptions.
Absolutely. This deep dive into our guest's 2004 Las Vegas adventure has been a wild ride. From a near miss on the runway to a chance encounter with a cowboy named Hoss, their story is a reminder that sometimes the best travel stories are the ones we least expect. And that, my friends, is why we love to travel. Until next time, happy adventuring.
I do like flying where we never hide.
Out on the highway, chasing the tide.